Okay, everybody. Thanks for the music, Keith. That was great. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm sure we'll have a few more people coming into the session as we move through the evening. But my name is Brooke Hudson, and I'm the producer of Omaha Fashion Week. And really excited to try something totally new this season. You know, we're sad that we weren't able to do runway shows this time around, but this is a much safer option. And we're excited because it keeps with that spirit of fashion for good, which is what our spring season is always about. And so we've got a really exciting week of different speakers lined up. And tonight we're going to hear from some of our local fashion experts, and they kind of represent different aspects of the fashion industry, various careers. And we're going to be talking to them about kind of what the day-to-day is like for them, but then also really dive into what it's been like to be a creative in the pandemic, how that's affected them, the good things, the bad things, and then we'd love to open it up to questions to all of you. So please, be thinking about the questions you want to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. I think the best way to do that, you could probably just unmute yourself or raise your hand. I think there's like a hand raising option on this. So yeah, Keith, did you have something? Oh, he raised his hand.
No, I'm just practicing my hand raising.
Great. Good job. A plus. Anyway, so we will, we'll see how that goes with a large group with the question asking thing, but, feel free to just jump in once we get through some of the initial questions that I have for everybody. So anyway, with that, we'll get started. I'm going to ask all of our panelists to unmute themselves, and we will, I want to start with, let's start with Alyssa. Tell us all about yourself and give us a quick introduction, and then we'll just kind of go down the line. So start with Alyssa. Hey, girl.
My name is Alyssa Diltz, and I am the owner of Develop Model Management. I also, in our community, am the casting director for Omaha Fashion Week. I also had the pleasure of creating Omaha Fashion Camp with my dear friend Brooke Hudson after we saw a need for our kids and teens in order to start their design career at a younger age. And Elaine's on this call, and she's even helped me with that. It's so great to see you. But lots of people involved in that. What else? I sit on the board of the Fashion Arts Collective as well. I've been part of that for quite a few years, almost since its inception. Brooke and Nick created that. And then handed off the baton, and we've ran with it. Additionally, a little bit of background. I worked in Chicago at Elite Model Management for 10 years before wanting to be closer to my family. My best friend, who's my mom, she's also on this call. And I came back 9 years ago and created Develop in order to bring the contacts that I have globally to service not only the models and creating kind of like a jumping pad for their careers and getting them outside of this market as much as we can, giving them those opportunities. But then in doing that, just so different than working in a larger market, where for that, we didn't really know our models or their families or the community. We were just working in that large market. And so here I started to get to know people, started seeing the need. And so that's what's really connected me with the community, especially supporting our designers and making friends along the way. What was the other part of that? So I was supposed to introduce myself, and then I had a thought.
That is actually perfect. We'll just start with the introductions, okay, and then I'll come back and I'll ask you something much more difficult.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Keith, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everybody. Peace. My name is Keith Roger. I also go by the alias Kethro. I am the music director for Omaha Fashion Week. I was like, how long have I been doing this? In 2021 marks my 5th year. Very, very not so simple, but simple explanation. I just work very closely with the designers to ensure a musical experience that accompanies their art that they are showing on the runway. I also do music programming for all the other aspects of Fashion Week, including the live shows, booking DJs, and just setting the overall tone from the minute you walk into the building to the minute you exit. So it's a lot of pre-programming and a lot of conversations with the organizers and the designers themselves on what the vision should look like, and I make it a reality.
And it adds so much. I mean, just look at that opening music for our call tonight, right?
I'm glad I could be of assistance.
Okay, Brett, go ahead.
Let me get unmuted there. I'm Brett Foster. I am the owner and lead designer of a company called Wow Factory. I think I've been working with Brooke and Nick on Fashion Week for, is it really 8 years? Is it really 8 years? No, I think it's more like 7 years, something like that. So I guess I would be the visual complement to what Keith does for Fashion Week, and try to create and bring to life Brooke's vision of what Fashion Week is going to be that year, with some visual cues that lead you through the event. Try to spend a lot of time creating moments that can be Instagrammable and make the world a more beautiful place 1 minute at a time for this great organization that brings fashion to Omaha, which I love.
You're one of our selection panelists as well.
I do that as well.
Yeah.
Before I returned to Omaha, I was most recently in New York with Macy's as a VP of visual environments for them, and had a lot of opportunities to work with a lot of designers in New York. So coming back to Omaha and having this great opportunity was amazing.
Well, we're so excited to have you. It's been fun. It's been a fun.
It has been fun. Absolutely. Or
All right.
5, whatever.
Sometimes it seems like it goes by fast, and sometimes it seems like it takes forever, right?
Absolutely.
All right, and then Tamara.
Hi, thank you so much for having me again. My name is Tamara Kurtenbach, and I am the owner of the women's wear label Passionate Lion. I went to school at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, where I was able to start my career out there. I worked for various companies in the New York market before I decided to just become an entrepreneur and start my company, which I started in 2003. I moved back to Omaha also for personal reasons, and I've been back here, I think, for about 9 years now. Since I've been back, I've really had a chance to grow my custom design business. I showed in Omaha Fashion Week in 2010 and then again in 2017, and had a wonderful experience at both showings. It really gave me a chance to really tap into my Omaha market here and really get a chance to know the customers and build relationships over the years. And now I'm just very grateful to be here speaking with you all tonight on the panel. So thank you again for having me.
Hey, thanks, Tamara. That's great. Okay, and we hope to see you on the runway again in the future.
Yeah, it's in the plan for sure.
Excellent. Okay, and then let's hear from Heather Hooten.
Hi, I'm Heather Hooten. I am one half of the photography duo Heather and Jameson, and we are the house photographers and videographers for Omaha Fashion Week, and have been since, I think, 2015. So it's been a while. I started photography in 2010, learned about the fashion community here in, I think, 2012, and have just dove deeper and deeper ever since then. I am the president of the Fashion Guild this year, which is really exciting. We help support the Fashion Arts Collective that Alyssa sits on the board of, and that Brooke and Nick started. And yeah, I'm really excited to be on the panel. Hopefully I can share.
This is your first time on this side.
I know, I'm usually photographing it. So this is very exciting. The weird silver lining
to the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Well, we're excited to have you. Thank you. And then I think our last person is Patty Figtree.
Hi, we're talking about me. Hey, I'm so excited to see you all. My name is Patty Figtree. I've worked with everybody at Fashion Week since we were in a tent, maybe not under a bridge, but 2013. So for quite a few years. So I've gotten to see how backstage doing hair and makeup has evolved from being extremely disoriented to being super oriented in our own space, which has been great to see us kind of upgrade into that. And to see our organization just like kill it, especially last year when we had all sorts of different parameters to work within. We still had an awesome show that was super fun. So worked with you guys here in Nebraska, which is still my favorite show. I've gone to New York a couple different times with a couple different companies to do hair and to do makeup. And it's just been kind of eye-opening to see what it's like backstage at a big thing, because that's what everybody kind of dreams of doing is New York Fashion Week. But it really makes me love you guys that much more to go somewhere huge, because now I'm in Kansas City, so I'm getting to do Kansas City Fashion Week. So I did that last year and I've done it a couple times too, but Omaha is still my favorite. It is just so fun and so different to see the different people come to it and get to work with that is just one of my favorites. So I'm really grateful to see you guys today.
Oh, we're excited to have you. Thank you so much for taking time to do this. It's great. Okay, so you've all met the panel. They're awesome. And you might have noticed that most of them have been working with us for a long time. So when we find talented people, we like to keep them. We get their hooks into them and we don't let them go. So, none of this would be possible without all of these people you're talking to tonight. They've just been such an important part of this journey and teaching me so much. When I got started with this in 2011, I had no idea what I was doing. And so I've relied on all of these amazing people to teach me the way. And it's been great. So. Okay, so I want to just start by, and panelists, you can just like jump in when you feel inspired or you've got something to say. It's a conversation. But the theme of this week is Omaha Fashion Week Beyond the Runway. So we all know what it's like to be on the runway. We've seen the shows, we get that part of it, but we want to look behind that and see what it's like day to day, preparing for something like Omaha Fashion Week, or even something bigger, like something in New York or another market. What that is like, kind of getting prepared for something like that. So who wants to start? Brett, I know.
I will.
Oh, you did? Okay, great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so what I've learned over the years, not just from doing custom design, but like you said, with runway shows especially, is that I think the biggest thing that can keep you from completely losing your mind during the process is just to try to write as much down as possible, make lists and be organized. It's gonna be crazy regardless. That's just the nature of the beast of a fashion show and the preparation for it. I think a lot of the times designers don't, sometimes we have the tendency to kind of underestimate the time that it's going to take to do something. But I've learned over the years just to give myself ample amount of time to just organize and make sure that everything is just super official, super proper. Your communication with your models and your hair people is just super on point. And in my experience, that saves years off of your years. It adds years to your life, because I've definitely been in situations as a designer where I've procrastinated and it literally feels like you're taking minutes off of your life because the stress is just so overbearing. So now that I'm wiser, that's definitely something that I would share to anyone who wants to embark on a runway show, is organization and preparation is the super master key to it all.
Amen, sister. So many lists. Did you have
I'll throw in. I have the great opportunity to work with a lot of young people and old people and all different ages of people that are volunteering to help with the actual setup of the show. So once I get a chance to work with Brooke and Nick and we decide what the tone and manner is going to be and what all the amazing elements are that are going to make this show the best it can be, I have a great opportunity to sort of lead and guide, sometimes through the nail-biting tension moments and sometimes through the we're going to string strawberries one by one for 2 hours. So it takes a certain kind of person that's willing to put in the time and the commitment to really bring the vision to life. And I have to say that we've had some amazing interns and some amazing volunteers over the years that have chipped in and been willing to do all of that. And obviously the amazing reward comes at the end when you've lived through the worst of the worst and the hectic of the hectic, and you are rewarded with the greatest of all rewards, which is a great show that's left its mark on the city. It's awesome.
It is great. I agree. I think we do have some awesome volunteers and interns.
Absolutely.
And the things that we've had them do. They are troopers.
It's no kidding. I mean, the very first show that we did together was, I think, the last tent show. Hi, Charlotte. In addition to getting to see Charlotte grow up, that last tent show, I will never forget it. It was in August. It must have been 8,000 degrees. I'm 25 feet in the air with the scissor lift, and it is like, what am I doing?
Was it the balls, the year of the balls?
That was the year of the massive paper lanterns, or the big balls. The big balls. I still cherish the photo from the center of the main bar looking up with it bathed in blue light. It was amazing, incredible. Totally forgot perspiring for 3 days on a scissor lift.
Pregnant.
I know, it's so crazy. But it is always so amazing when it always comes together. And I think the word of mouth from the volunteers and the interns from one season to the next, I think, keeps bringing us those good people that know they're going to be a part of something really special.
That's awesome.
That's why I keep coming back.
Who else? Anyway. Anyone else have anything interesting to share about what it's like beyond the runway? The good, the bad, the ugly?
Well, as far as like getting prepared for the show, I think the weirdest thing to adjust to in fashion is the fact that you're always living essentially a season ahead of where everyone else is living. So when it's spring and summer, like we are planning our fall winter shoot now, like we are going to shoot it soon. That's always, there's so much prep ahead of time because, you know, you have to get out the advertising and all that kind of stuff. So just constantly thinking a season ahead to be on time for things is a really interesting perspective in fashion that I just think other people are not, they don't have to worry about what's happening next season already the way we do.
How can you maintain a certain sense of being present when you're always thinking about what's next? Because I feel that pressure. I mean, you're really like into it, and I rely on your expertise to help me know like what's coming next, like fashion wise, because that's not my background. My background was in journalism, communications, public relations, and event planning. So I find it difficult because I'm always planning, 6 months ahead, except for this year, which is a weird year. But how do you maintain that sense of presence and being in the here and now while also thinking ahead?
It is really hard because I think like when you learn about trends or when I'm photographing editorials for Develop Model Management, I'm trying to style all of the models in the things that are going to be relevant in the coming months and not right now, because if you do it for right now, then it's already over. So it is hard because I'm excited about things so far in advance. And then by the time it gets around to like, oh, it's the right weather for me to wear that thing I was excited about, I forget that I can wear that now. So I do think it's hard. But I think that more than anything, if you're excited about something, it'll stick in your head, and the things that you're not excited about, you can let it go. It doesn't matter. But anytime I'm doing a shoot, it's always the models are in a bikini, but it's snowing out, or they're in a winter coat and it's summer right now.
It's crazy. How about Keith? What have you got?
Yeah, just to add to that, my job is very much the opposite. I can't plan for the future. Reason being is because I just have to keep my ear out there to see what is coming at me when we're in the down season. Reason being is, you never know what the following year, what songs or what artists are really going to put something out that has a very strong impact. So my job is kind of like playing this hurry up and wait game, excuse me. And that just attributes to listening to new music on a daily basis, watching other brands or fashion houses debut their projects and just show what they're doing musically, and just studying kind of the trends that are happening, and then creating something that's unique to Omaha Fashion Week. So a lot of my time is spent doing R&D, and then when it comes time where we start to begin the prep for the season, a lot of it's just literally going through hours and hours and hours of playlists, trying to pick things that don't work and trying things out. And, you know, by the time we even start Fashion Week, the first day or two, the playlists are not in tune. It's usually by the weekend is when all of the music and everything hits and really sounds good. And that's just because it's a lot of my job is observing others in the field to see how they're reacting to these environments. Does the music, if it's slower tempo, people tend to really get bored, like naturally. But if it's a pace, no matter what sound it is, it's always going to have some influence. So I want to keep it unique and fun. I think the best seasons are definitely the August season, the summer season, because people really react to more music that is a lot more social and things like that. So I pay attention to those things going into the winter, and then coming out of the following year, and making sure that I can keep that heat and that energy going for the following season. So yeah.
That's fascinating. So you're like, you know, most of us are always thinking 6 months ahead, but for you, Keith, you just have to be incredibly present in what is good in the here and now.
Absolutely. You know, with the way music works, it used to drop every week or every month, but now people just put out music whenever they want. So something that could change the world comes out on a Wednesday at midnight. I'm up at 6 hearing it and, you know, just riding with it. And sometimes songs grow and sometimes artists grow. So by the time Fashion Week hits in this August, we may have a brand new artist or somebody that makes that song that just you're hearing in all these fashion weeks, or or just other events. So people are going to react to that one because it's more relevant. So it's really just about observing and just waiting for that tide to come in and catching that wave if I can. And if I don't and I miss out, I'm not doing my job accurately. And as a DJ, you just got to be sharp at all times. So
yeah, and adjust in real time.
Every time.
Yeah. Alyssa, what have you got?
Yeah, I think, one of the greatest things about Omaha Fashion Week is the community that it's built and how far reaching it is. In my everyday job, I do pride myself on connecting with the models that I represent and the clients that I work with, and getting to know them well enough so that I can anticipate what their needs are, what I think their response might be, and how can I help them reach their goals. A challenge that I face that comes up is that I work with young people. They change their minds often, so we can be working toward the goal, and that goal changes. And for me, I've been adaptable. We have a saying here, it's kind of naughty, so I'll just say the acronym, which is FITFO, figure it out, and roll with things and do it with a smile on our face. And that works for a while. One thing that I've been seeing though is we've been so adaptable to a lot of the people that we support that when they do go on to other markets, they're a little bit of a fish out of water because they might not have that continued support. And I'll give you an example. You were saying, outside of this market, what does that look like? Omaha Fashion Week, we've tried to find a way to include as many people as possible. So we only book one model or one designer at a time. And that allows for no quick changes behind the scenes, allowing for more models to be involved, and no damage, or, trying to not damage in the quick change moment, the garments and everything that the designers have worked so hard on. That's great. There's a lot of sitting around, waiting, you're conversing with each other. There's this community. I mean, that's the whole point and why we've decided to go that way. In New York, we had a girl that had been walking for Omaha Fashion Week. I've known her for over 5 years. We've always had the goal of traveling as a model and going to other markets. 5 years we've tried all these different markets. Heather reshot her book 1,000 times, and she just was a really great model. She finally got signed in New York. We were so excited. She was excited. She goes there. Whoops. She goes there during their fashion week, and this was pre-COVID, and it was too overwhelming for her. She had to go from casting to casting to casting. Backstage was way too quick paced. And this was a woman that was, she isn't 15. I mean, I think she's 24, 25 at the time. Very intelligent, not that that has anything to do with it, but had a good head on her shoulders, and she just wasn't prepared. So I think, I, as a manager, when I'm observing that, we're in this let's take care of you, loving environment, supportive, which all 100% aligns with what my DNA is and what we try to do. But I think, and even talking to some other models that have been on here, we do a disservice when we're sugarcoating things or
coddling,
not sharing a little bit more. And so I think that's something, if you want to go to those other markets, just to like pull yourself up by the bootstraps and be ready for that a little bit more.
That's great. Yeah. So I think that's a really important point. Do you have any advice for people on how they can learn to pull up their bootstraps and figure it out?
Yeah, I think staying authentic to yourself. So let's say in a moment, everything's moving too quickly and you can't handle it, express that, call your agent, or even she could have called me during that moment and saying, hey, I need 2 days off. I got to have some self-care. And, it may affect her outcome, but her outcome now is she left and, is trying to start the whole process over again, when we have to listen to ourselves. And I think it'll be interesting on the call tomorrow with James Scully. There's so many advocates that are really trying to change what that looks like for models. Models for years had no voice whatsoever. And that's just the way it is, and yes, we need to be, roll with things. But at some point, if you're not being, if you're, risking your mental health or even your physical health, that's not okay. That's not what we're here for either, even on a career level. And so I think that goes across the board, whether you're a photographer, music producer, hair and makeup artist, designer, stylist. Like I've seen it happen in every aspect where maybe someone's mean and barking at you, and we take that home to our families and, it affects us. And I think we just need to know in the moment, okay, what is my purpose here? Who can I go to talk about that? And let me take a time out and try and figure this out, because it can snowball into something bigger then. So I just think it's having our eyes open and looking for that and having that support system in place that you can talk to.
Yeah. That way your confidence isn't permanently undermined when you've got a great opportunity like going to New York for Fashion Week. Yeah.
Can I,
Go ahead.
I have a question for Patty. Does that kind of apply in your world too? Like you're essentially working with models on their hair, on their makeup. Like you're literally right there with them, transforming them. Is there anything that you feel like you do with them to try to give them a confidence boost? Because you can read people at that point, And I wonder if like they ever ask you for advice in the moment, or if you could tell they're feeling tense. Is there any techniques that you use to kind of get them in the mood for the show?
That's a great question. Yeah, I feel like over the last few years, I've kind of learned how to read people, and people have learned how to read me as well. And I've definitely started to get a name for myself, specifically at Omaha Fashion Week. Girls that have done this for a number of years in a row, and they know if the makeup is going to be complicated, if they feel like their makeup is not quite right, they literally come directly to me and they're like, hey, can you help me with this? I don't feel good about this. I feel like this is going to be too hard. I always also get paired with people that they know are a little just different, and they can kind of feel my vibe. Like usually you show up and you sit down, and I'm very like open, and I ask their name, and I, ask them a couple questions while I'm getting set up, which most people don't. They don't even introduce themselves. And so I'm very like trying to be personal about it, even though you're about to sit there with your eyes closed. I'm going to do whatever to you. You just have to deal with it. And now that I've been in Kansas City, that actually followed me there, which has been great because I've done one Kansas City Fashion Week here. And during that Fashion Week, I had a girl that came up to me that we had kind of a makeup issue with at Omaha Fashion Week. And she recognized me and was having this same issue and literally came up to me and was like, hey, I recognize you. I know that you're always down to like stop what you're doing and help because you have an eye for that. You know what's wrong and you can fix it really quick, or you can tell that somebody's uncomfortable. And that is just so awesome because that's what I'm really there for. Like I'm kind of the same as you. You got to be prepared and know a lot of what's going on in the world for that moment. And if it doesn't look right, sometimes the designers can't read what it's going to look like on the runways. So you have to be in the moment, very nice, but also like, hey, you might need to switch up what's happening right now, or it doesn't look right on that person, or somebody was sick. So like, you got to kind of be prepared with a set backup plan almost for them to kind of be like, hey, what about this instead? Or I've shown up with my face done and it was something cool I'd seen online. And the designer was like, I like your look. I want that on all of my people. That has happened so many times. So just being prepared for that, but also just having a good attitude. It used to really stress me out in the beginning that things would change. I would go through and I'd have my check sheets and my lists and my names and ready to check things off. So I knew it was happening. It wouldn't happen. So like just not letting that get to you and just kind of rolling with it and trying to get things done as quickly as possible with a great attitude really changes the scenes behind. So once we've started to get organized and started to give everybody a happier attitude, even if it's wrong, like that's fine. We'll figure it out. You got to be online right now. You don't have no lips on. Well, let's go. Let's get it figured out. But like not being rude about it, because there's so much negativity backstage already that you don't need to add on top of that by being rude to somebody when you're behind, you know?
Yeah, there's tension backstage for sure, because everybody is under time pressure and everybody wants to do their very best, and people put a lot into that. So yeah, I think that's really, everything that you've just said is really awesome. And I lost my train of thought. My child was just in here, but it's fine. It's Zoom. It's 2021. But yeah, I know what it was. Okay. So it's really, none of this stuff, like in any event, any fashion show, any photo shoot, music session, I don't think it ever goes exactly the way you plan it out, right? So you do have to have a certain amount of openness to the idea that things are going to change. And sometimes that's where the best ideas come from. That's when things get really creative, and you have to trust in yourself in those moments that you're going to come up with a way forward. And the key is to get from A to B. It's not to get from A to B exactly how you thought you were supposed to, because you'll come up with a new way in the moment. And that's
absolutely. And last year was so cool that the models showed up with their makeup. So it changed how we did things. Instead of having a set look, it was kind of like, well, if they already have this full face on, you're going to have to work with that by either changing it or adding to it, because there's no subtracting and start over. There's 10 minutes per person. So last year was a really interesting rendition of that, just flying by the seat of your pants, but like with a good attitude and just seeing what comes to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that whole thing, I mean, we started planning in May, and again, none of that happened the way I thought it was going to happen in May. It was completely different. So you just have to go with it. Okay, speaking of like the fact that there's so many things don't turn out the way you think they are, 2020 and 2021, COVID, creativity, how has that impacted the panel? Like, has it been good? Has it been bad? How have you managed to stay creative through this crazy time of isolation and awfulness?
I mean, I guess I'm going first again. Okay. So I moved to Kansas City right as the pandemic started. So I was ready to like restart my hair business and like jump. I was supposed to do New York and then Omaha and then Kansas City within like a 4-week time span last year. And I was like, cool, this is great. I'm going to like finish out my Omaha career and move to my Kansas career. And it's going to be great. And I'm going to network all at once. And I had all these fashion shows lined up, and then the world ended. So I was like, okay, well, like, I don't want to stop my role right now. What do I want to do? Plus I'm also trying to find people in my real life to put behind my chair as well. So I started messaging people online, basically anybody on Instagram that looked like somebody I wanted to network with, like cool photographers, cool makeup artists. And since I couldn't work with other people, I also didn't know people to work with. I decided that I would just do it. So I would do my makeup and my hair, and then I would go and meet up with photographers. And so I would kind of get to network with them in a different behind the scenes kind of way. And so there was a lot of online different ways to connect with people, but I had a lot better feedback because of quarantine, I think, than I would have normally. So it actually fed right into itself. And it was actually a really, really great start to this year. Once the salon did open back up, I had a lot of people that I had pre-messaged that had been kind of following me along up until that point, and were finally like, oh my God, I can finally come see you now. So that was really kind of a snowball effect way to work up to that I didn't think was really going to work out with not have any shows.
Wow. So yeah, you just planted a bunch of seeds, and I mean, you moved into a completely new market and everything shut down. So your networking, everything that you would need to do to generate business was like gone. That's incredible.
Right. And it's kind of keeping your content alive too, though. So like you've seen me at Fashion Week, I have my cameras and my lights and all the things set up, because you can get so much different content, even just by like doing something at home creatively. If you're a designer or if you're a music person, people love to see the creative process, which is something I've started doing a lot more now, especially with Instagram Reels and TikToks being a thing. Like they don't really want to see the after as much as the process to get there. So people love seeing my process of what I do behind the scenes. So that's really helped me, because there's a lot of process to what I do. The actual time of doing it, it's pretty time crunch. It's all in one day and you have a few very minutes to each person. So being able to show my huge day behind the chair process has been really eye-opening to a lot of people to get to watch.
Awesome. Thanks. Keith, did you have some comments? Pandemic and
yeah. Oh wow, yeah. Actually, but 2 days ago, I went back and counted all of the projects. So day by day, I'm actually an audio engineer. I work in a studio here called Make Believe Studios. And that's pretty much the only place I spent my time, home here and at the studio. I worked on 73 projects last year, most of them turning into albums. So there was a lot of production, probably more than I've done in the past years. Also, usually in the DJ world, when COVID hit, I decided to start a DJ residency with a good friend of mine who is a touring audio engineer. And we were looking for subjects, we just threw a bunch of things at the wall, and what we loved was jazz music. It's a type of music that has been around for so long. There's so much history to it, and we really wanted to explore and try to educate our peer groups about this music. Plus, we found out a lot of artists, especially like our friends, love jazz music, and they all have these incredible collections. So we started a weekly online residency called Jazz Night, which is here on Zoom. And we went 52 weeks straight every Sunday. And we raised money for different organizations. We raised thousands of dollars for different organizations, such as Backstage for Black Lives, Culture House, ACLU, and many others. And we were just able to bring in great artists and great guests. We had the Free Nationals come on about 3 different occasions. That's Anderson .Paak's band. We've had people that are just other engineers, other artists, other producers just come on the show every week and just talk about what they're doing. So it was a way to just keep everything together. And I learned a lot. We played like 68 hours of music, that just new music, and then a bunch of other stuff as well. So that was cool. So I stayed pretty busy, even though life changed. I stayed pretty busy, and it was quite an adventure. But I'm ready to go outside again.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get back outside. Heather, you seemed like you were, I know you were being safe, but you seemed pretty active too in the photography world, because I follow you on Instagram, and your art went tenfold. I felt like I was seeing a lot of output, and was that newer art you were creating, or was this stuff that you kind of had in the archives?
It was a little bit of both. I was just gonna say, I feel like the underachiever in the group, because COVID was definitely, quarantine was hard for me creatively. I constantly felt really nervous to do photo shoots because I didn't want to expose models. I didn't want to risk being a vector point. But like Patty, I had a bunch of opportunities lined up for 2020, I was going to be going to Chicago and to Portland on the reg and shooting all of these great things. And then when the pandemic hit, everything shut down. But it weirdly opened some cool doors. I got to photograph Conor Oberst for Billboard magazine. And yeah, thank you. It was really cool. But yeah, I think because photographers weren't traveling, I was the photographer in town, so I got to do that, and it was really exciting. I got to shoot a book cover for HarperCollins. It's just a lot of weird things that I think because people were looking for more local talent, I like popped up on their radars. So again, a weird silver lining to the pandemic, but I think mostly I just got better at posting on Instagram. I'm so concentrated on doing the shoots and planning the shoots and then editing the shoots that sharing them later with people I forget about. So it'll pop up on Develop Models or on the Scout editorial. And I'm like, oh yeah, so everybody's seen that, right? But I'm not posting it on my own. So I've learned to be better about sharing things through social media, because I think that being quarantined at home, I began to realize more and more like, oh, a lot of what other people see of my life is online. They don't know all these things that are happening in my life. And so I have to be the one to tell people. So I think it's an interesting learning experience.
That's awesome.
I'll say for me, it was very disheartening at the beginning to just see everything you had lined up for the balance of the year just keep. I mean, I think we all shared that experience, just come tumbling down. But for me, I think the silver lining was just recognizing that, this is a shared experience that's once in a lifetime. I mean, more than 9/11. I mean, this literally touched everyone around the world. And so I just chose not to dwell on what was lost, but to think about what could potentially be gained from all of it. And the idea that we all can choose to react to this shared experience in a way that moves everyone forward seems like the optimistic and sometimes way too distant possibility. But I think it's events that celebrate creativity and art that move a culture and a world forward. So I've been spending a lot of my time thinking about what can the world do when we can group with groups of people more than 20. What can we do once the vaccines are in place and we can move forward? So I'm looking forward to this millennium's answer to the Roaring 20s. I'm looking forward to seeing people get out and celebrate and live and do all these things that we've all been hungry for. I mean, we've certainly all, I think, found our silver linings in the nurturing space of home and family and having that extra time to be reflective and introspective. But man, I'm ready to go outside too and start making some change in the world.
Yeah, seriously. Oh. Does anyone else have anything to add about COVID and creativity? Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to open it up to questions. So we have lots of people that are here listening in. So if anybody wants to kind of pipe up at this point and ask questions, we'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, I'll just keep asking. We'll just keep talking. Or you could write it in the chat thingamajigger.
Can I ask Alyssa a question?
Oh, I like this. This is inner panel questioning. This is great.
Yeah.
Always.
Alyssa, you manage a lot of people, and I thought about you a lot during COVID because I was like, how is she able to, you provide job opportunities, you provide opportunities for people. So how were you able to manage all of that and maintain afloat through 2020?
So it's kind of twofold. You know, I think along with Heather being what she explained, that we were local and able to provide our clients with local talent. They didn't have the choice to fly people in, because that's something that we fight all of the time, which is just beyond bizarre to me, that we have amazing talent that I've signed in other markets that can work in other markets, but if I submit them, they don't want to hire them. But if their other agency submits them, they want to. Our clients here, sometimes it's really, we're always fighting being cool enough. And so I'm constantly, that's why I keep my 312 phone number, confuse them a little bit, and switch it up that way. But anyway, so I actually, luckily, I mean, it wasn't, you know, globally across the whole agency, but we were very, very blessed. We pivoted. We actually offered our clients for them to ship us product, and we shot it here. So I became a photographer, a videographer. I had to start using all of that footage. And then a gal that works for me, Miranda, is a model. So that was another benefit. We were already in our bubble together. And so she was able to benefit from that. But additionally, I think it's, you know, my job is difficult. I'm in charge of people's hopes and dreams, right? They're coming to me saying, this is what they want their next step to be. So in COVID, you had people that were planning to take a gap year from college. So they hadn't applied to colleges. They hadn't come up with another plan because this is what they were going to do. Or they were living in another city. You know, maybe they had we had two girls, one just had moved to Chicago a week before this happened. The other one had lived in LA for 3 weeks. And a model's career in the beginning, you know, when they leave us, they're typically our most experienced models when they move to other markets, experienced for Omaha. When they hit that new market, they are brand new faces. They are low man on the totem pole, starting over from scratch, even with all their experience. Yes, they're going to have a better rate of success because they can move more quickly. They get it. They understand it. They can show up to a good thing, but no one knows them there. There's no client base that they have there. And so these models had relocated their entire lives and didn't have gosh, okay, I got an apartment, moved all of my furnishings here. I got a part-time job and now that's all over. And I can't afford the part-time job left because most of them were waitresses or hostesses and that was gone. So there was no way for them to support themselves in a traditional sense. So they had to move back, and I have to be the person that tells them how it, you know, it's going to be okay. We got this, you know, like let's keep figuring it out and FITFO. And it is, you know, it's taxing on me, and that's why I'm very, very lucky. I have an incredible support system, and my mother, my husband, my father, and my friends, that I can take that on for so many people and be a smile. What do you want? Let's try and pivot. Let's do this other thing. And luckily, those two girls in particular have already been replaced, are already in other markets and already back and up and going. So they were lucky that they already had that momentum going. And we're lucky in general as a modeling industry, everything is opening back up, and, you know, we can pick right back up. Another lucky thing is most models that are trying to model outside of this market are younger, and they, you know, can be more flexible with, some went back to school during this time. Others, you know, were able to move back home with their families, and it wasn't like they were put out on the street with 3 kids, you know. I mean, those are crazy circumstances that have affected a lot of people. So in my, you know, overall, I've just been every day waking up thankful that we are in a small market, that I have the ability to pivot. And when I come up with a new idea, I'm able to execute it. And that's one of the greatest things about Omaha and it being a tertiary market. It's like, we can do those things and execute them with very little risk and a lot of support. And so to answer your question, it really wasn't business-wise, numbers-wise, it really wasn't that bad. It's more emotional toll, and just kind of working through that and always looking forward. We know there's going to be an end to it. What are we going to be doing to be ready for when that ends? We're going to kill it. And that's literally what we focused the entire last year on, is doing shoots, getting behind the camera, getting better than what you can be, and just trying to focus on yourself. But it is very difficult to stay positive when there's no results. You know, in modeling, the sports, or most things in life, you do A, you get to B, you do B, you get to C. I excel at something, I do better, I'm going to move up that ladder, I'm going to, you know, get the goals that I want. Modeling is like, you could do everything that you're supposed to do and not get the result that you deserve even. And so it's very difficult.
Wow. Yeah.
Sorry, I got a little bit.
So guess what? We do have some questions coming in.
Okay.
So we've got quite a few. So let's take a look at these. The first one is from Kathy Werner, and she's asking, what steps would you suggest for a high school student to take if they are interested in getting into the fashion industry? We're not sure what aspect of the industry she's talking about. So anybody can just kind of jump in and answer that as best they can.
I'll take a stab at it as a panelist. If you're looking to be a designer, I will tell you that Omaha Fashion Week is a great opportunity for you to get your feet wet in the process in general. The panelists all take it very seriously. We love to work with emerging designers and established designers as well. I think that we give good feedback on how to make your line really show well on the runway, and help you start taking steps towards branding and identifying your own point of view. But I think going through that process on a level like Omaha Fashion Week is a very unique learning experience that should be taken advantage of by any young designer out there.
Yeah, and you know, even if you're not interested in fashion design, maybe you're interested in some other aspect of the industry. There's so many different opportunities to get involved through Omaha Fashion Week or through the Fashion Arts Collective as well. There's so much there. So taking advantage of some of these really amazing professional grade opportunities that are happening here locally to build your portfolio so you can go into a different market is huge.
Even volunteering as a high school student gets you just your eyes on what's really going on, a little behind the scenes.
As a designer or as hair and makeup, Omaha Fashion Week is the only place that I know of where they pair up pros with students. And that's great because if you're not sure, like you're not confident in it, most of the time you're not going to be able to do that. But here they pair you up so you can at least get your hands in there a little bit. And even just being there, it's like, oh, this is what's happening. Some people cannot handle being backstage. I've seen girls show up to do hair and be like, oh God, like I can't do this.
Get me out of here.
I think Omaha is a great place because it's really fast paced, but also like you can feel it out and see if it is for you and if it's not for you. So I think it's a great place to start. Because if I hadn't started here and I went to New York, oh my God, I would have been deer in the headlights. It's a lot. Everything is in your face and it's moving so fast. There's no room to breathe. So like, if you're not prepared for that, Alyssa, I can see how some of your girls would also be like, whoa, not used to this whatsoever. Because it's a lot.
Yeah. Okay. Here's another question. What early steps, and this is from Anthony Sherrod, what early steps would you take to build a business?
Call Brooke Hudson.
Oh my gosh. You just got to get started. I mean, my thing getting into Omaha Fashion Week, it wasn't like I didn't, this was not my idea. I'll just say that it was my husband's idea. But you know, you kind of just have to get started and figure out what you're doing. You got to take the first step. And then from there, you start to kind of develop a vision for what you want it to be. But I would really like to hear from like Tamara with her business, and Heather, Alyssa. You know, I got thrown into this a little bit, but you guys, I think maybe were a little bit more intentional about what you were doing. So I'd love to hear from you on that question.
I would say, as someone who knows that they have the passion to start a business, and they're ready to take on the challenge of the competition, and just all the different obstacles that come along with being an entrepreneur, I would say a great place to start would be to start writing your business plan, because that's going to provide you with every single detail that you need, and you can use that as a reference as you go along your business journey. So that's going to outline your product, your services, who your market competitors are, most importantly, who you're selling to. Every single detail of what you want that business to be and what you want the outcome to be is going to be in that plan. And they have some really, really great literature out there. You can get on YouTube and kind of connect a lot of dots together. There's some great books on it. I read Business Plans for Dummies, which is a very, it's a very, very easy to digest outline of what you need to do. But once you have that business plan, that's kind of like the springboard, because everyone's going to want to know details. And if you can't provide those details, like if you're looking for financing, investors, or anybody just to be a part of your team, they're going to want to know those details. So if you're able to give it to them and they're able to, you know, just go through it or read it, or if you're able to reference it yourself, that's really going to open up the doors of opportunity. It's going to distinguish you between somebody who says they want to be a business owner and somebody who's really going to go ahead and try to do that. So
I like what you said about that, because you're, you know, you just took the initiative, you educated yourself, you got a book, you did the research online. I mean, start writing a business plan and starting a business. You don't have to have an MBA for that. You don't have to have a degree. You don't have to do class. All you have to do is some research on your own, and just, you've got everything you need within yourself to make it happen if you're willing to work hard.
Yes, that's the message right there.
Yeah,
cool. Anyone else
take
want
your
to?
time.
What was
Just
that, Keith?
take your time. Just take your time with it.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you're in a rush. Like, trends do change, things change, but take your time when you're doing R&D, and get a good accountant and get a lawyer too. I'm telling you, just take your time. It took 2 years to build our studio. We were in a shell for 2 years. So we made sure we wanted it perfect. We're not opening anything subpar. So just, take your time.
Mm-hmm. Good advice too. The lawyers and the accountants, critical. Something to invest in. Okay, we've got another question. I'm a 20-year-old designer. This is Lauren Hansen, who will be graduating college in a year and a half, and I want to be a freelancer. What steps do you recommend to me now to have my best foot forward? Side note, I love this show, and I'm glad I've shown at Omaha for 3 seasons. Thank you. Okay, so we've got Heather, you freelance, Keith freelances. You got any?
I have like a weird answer to the last like 3 questions.
Oh, you've already skipped ahead.
No, I mean, yeah. So I think especially in the arts community, in the fashion community, what I have found is building relationships is so important. And anytime you can reach out to anyone in whatever you want your specialty to be, or anyone that's connected to it, and offer to help, offer to whatever you need to do to learn from those people or to help them out. Like, the only reason I am where I am is because I loved fashion, and I reached out to people and I was like, how can I help you with your fashion things? Because I want to be a part of this community. And then you build those relationships, and then those relationships are really strong. And then you end up building more relationships, and you end up shooting for Omaha Fashion Week, and it's really awesome. So I think getting started in any industry, I think that my career grew semi-organically into fashion. I didn't mean to end up here, but I'm so happy that I did, because I just followed what I loved, and that's what brought me here. So I think if you can find those people that are doing what you love, or that are connected to what you love, and you can find a way to work together, I think that's one of the best things you can do, especially when you're starting out. I think it's just invaluable.
And, you know, when you get started, you're not getting paid, right? You know, you're doing the best you can, but you're not making a lot of money at that point. Having those relationships, that's what gets you through, you know, from a mental health perspective. Being able to have those connections with people, and people who are in the trenches with you, helps you not feel so isolated. And I think that can help you keep going when things get tough. So
yeah, I remember I took a class from the photographer that came up with Tyra Banks, and his whole thing was find your team, build your team, and grow with your team. Find people that love working with you and you love working with them, and it's productive and creative, and grow with them, because it is about the community.
Mm-hmm. Cool, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna we've got more questions here. I'm a teacher in a small town. This is Kathy. And we have a couple of students on here. They are interested in design, but could use ideas on the direction they should take to get there. So they're interested in fashion design. How do they become a fashion designer?
Sketch every day. Just keep, like Keith was saying, it's not a race. Go at your own pace. Just gather whatever it is that you need to gather inspiration. I think a good place to start would be to get a big cork board and just to put up pictures, images, whatever inspires you, whatever makes you feel alive. And from that, you'll start to develop a collection, start sketching, keep all your sketches. And just, I just think that's a great, that's just a great place to start with the creative process. Just gather information, do research. And then before you know it, the silhouettes will just start to come out of that. And before you know it, you'll have a collection. So
cool.
And you got to find your inspiration too. I think when you're doing that research, you're going to connect with certain people that speak to you, that are going to inform your choices and how you develop and grow. And what I think is always so amazing when I talk to clothing designers, you hear inspirations that are so disparate from one another, and yet they've drawn some sort of connection between them and create this thing that's just magical. And I mean, that's the greatest, right? I mean, sketching, yes, everything you said is there, but I think the more you can learn about the history of fashion and how it's grown over time, the more you can grasp little tidbits that you can bring and modernize. It's very inspiring stuff.
Yes. Okay, and this is Jenny Poole. For those of you who spoke to the pandemic creating more opportunity for local artists, do you see that being something that continues on after things open up? Do you think clients have learned that Omaha is enough? And I think Alyssa kind of spoke to some of this, that sometimes there's this sense of people not appreciating what's in their own backyard and how awesome it is. So yeah, I kind of get a sense that Jenny might be speaking to that aspect as well. So do you think clients have learned Omaha is enough? Do you think that the opportunities that have opened up for local artists are going to continue?
I can answer that. I do think it's going to continue, but I don't think Omaha will be enough. And I don't think it would be enough for any city, including New York or Milan, or even the bigger ones. We still need to be hyper connected. We still need to be able to go to each other's cities or states or countries and learn about the cultures and ideas and share those. That's the only way that fashion progresses forward. That's the only way that any creative art or anything creative progresses forward. But as far as Omaha goes, I think it's just really wise to remember that what we're doing and if we're working together locally, we just need to keep brewing that, because your peers are going to go venture and bring those ideas back. And as long as you try to keep pushing those ideas forward here and pushing each other here, you're going to get a very, very good result with whatever project you're working on. And I could speak to that just from music. A lot of people moved back to Omaha last year, and you know, when they sent their projects to me, I would open them up and they would be amazing. You know, because they have the time to do so, and they have the time to bring me into it. Previously, they'd be in LA, or they'd be in Austin, or they'd be in Atlanta, where time is more of the enemy there. So this is a perfect time to really take your talent pool, whatever realm you work in, and just really just try to push everybody forward, and just keep reminding them that, you know, this industry can grow as long as we just keep pushing each other and encouraging each other to work together instead of trying to outsource all the time. You know, you're not any less greater than somebody who works in Chicago for said fashion house or big brand. Like, you have the potential to be equal, if not better. And it's not the location that makes you. You make the location. So that's all I got to say.
Soundbite right there. That was, what do you call those, knowledge darts?
Knowledge darts, yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Cool. Let's see. Okay, so Jen Lopez, this question is for anyone. How do you find work overseas as a designer or stylist? It can be hard enough getting work locally. So what are some tips to go about doing this overseas?
Ooh. I have a short answer to that. I'm not either of those things, but just getting work overseas. I've toured a lot overseas. You just have to go there. You have to go there. You have to meet the people, respect the culture, take it all in, and present your best version of yourself in the work that you bring with you. And I guarantee you will find work. People love, when somebody comes and visits from another country to Omaha, everybody gets excited about that. Someone comes in from Italy, we got to show them all the great things and do all the great things. They think about that way about us too. So you just got to go there. You have to go there, meet people, learn the language, dive into what they have to offer, and just soak it in. And they'll always will be calling you every time. Just be prepared to hop on that plane and get there and start working, when that call happens.
Any other thoughts on how to get into international work? Alyssa?
I mean, I certainly in my profession, come see me. For designers though, because I believe that's what it was, or styling designer. I mean, stylists, you got to put the time in. You got to start from the bottom up, unfortunately, and meet the right people. It's 100% connections and taking the leap, as Keith said, to just move to that whatever market you want to be in. Styling is really interesting. It's such an artistry, in my opinion, just as much as a designer is, but true styling, in my opinion, you have to have an eye for it. And it's very difficult to teach, but what can be taught on set and while you're learning from others is how you're supposed to act on set, looking for the little detail. Maybe there's a hair out of place and you fix that because the photographer's doing their job and they're thinking about lighting and these sorts of things. The models focus on something else. All these different people are on their thing. Your job as a clothing stylist or a hairstylist, makeup artist, is looking at those little details and paying attention, jumping in. And until you're on set, I don't think you know that you have permission to. Some you don't have permission to, so it's a personality thing also with the team. But that's a big piece of it. And so until you get there, you can sit at home and look at clothing and love trends and love everything and have an idea, but you gotta feel it and do it, because what Brooke spoke to earlier of that evolving. Maybe you have something in your head. We all do a pin board. We think we know what we're going to shoot. And then we get on set and it becomes something totally different. If you don't have that experience, you don't know how to express yourself and come up with those different ideas and let it evolve. So I think styling, especially, you've got to get in there and do it. And what does that mean? For me, we have internships that we give opportunities to. It's hard though to get in. And this is Scout, sorry, you need to come sit in my lap. We're looking for someone dynamic. We allow our interns and stylists to take charge. I don't want to do it. You're the expert, figure it out, kind of thing. And you can't get that education other places. So it's very competitive. So when I meet someone new, it's prove it to me, show me how great you are. One of the stylists that comes to mind immediately, which all of us know and have worked with, is Aya Zacharias. I mean, I honestly didn't know who she was. I knew she was this very creative person and bopping around. And I saw all this stuff on social media, and swear to God, she ended up at my great aunt's funeral. So bizarre. And I was like, I think that's Aya. And this girl, and I'm trying to explain it to my mom, but I had seen her work and I'm like, how is she coming up with this? Who is this girl? Saw her, and I decided to approach her because I'm like, dang, I want to know what she needs to come work with me. And it just started this very long relationship. And she's always my go-to, hands down, one of the hardest working people I've ever met. And you've got to get in dirty, want to carry things. You know, we all want to look cute. I think that's a business that we're in, but you can also, you got to go hard and get your hands dirty. And when that does not go unnoticed, and those are the people that get ahead for sure. So it's talent and hard work.
Yeah, Aya's a real one. She's been to at least 40 of the 52 Jazz Night shows I hosted. Didn't know she was a fan, but she's a big mega fan. She's got a crazy sound system in her house. Like, she's an example of a young creative who's in tune with a lot more than what you think or expect. So music, fashion, styling, just overall, like, American culture. She's like a prophet in a way, you know, or going to be, you know.
Yeah.
She's going to be the source.
But yeah, relationship building, and then once you have those relationships, do not burn bridges. That has been my motto
absolutely
my life.
After doing this a long time backstage, I think those are two of the biggest things. Don't fuck up. Don't, say the wrong thing to the wrong person, and try really hard. I've just in the last, since 2013 when I started, just the last few years when we've had more space and more organization and more help, have I actually even seen the show. The first 4 years, the first 8 seasons, I didn't even see the show because I was backstage doing makeup changes and helping with last minute stuff and filling in for people that, like, I didn't even know who they were, but they didn't show up. And I don't even know who this designer is, but show me a picture and I'll do it. Like, that was Fashion Week to me for a really long time. And I didn't love it, but I wanted to do it so badly that I was like, I will continue to do this until I finally get to level up. So, like, you really do have to put the hard work in. And if you don't know what it's like, I would recommend trying somewhere that's not New York first. If you go to New York first and you're trying to learn backstage, you're going to get in the way and you might not enjoy your experience. So I've gone to New York a couple of times, and the very first time was really intense. And I originally went to New York Fashion Week to learn how to run backstage, not to be who I am here for you guys, but how to, like, run that. Because, like, everybody was going there to learn how to do the things. I was learning how to run the backstage. After I leveled up, I was like, oh God. So now I'm in charge and I have to tell people what to do for other people. So it gets even more complicated, but I could not have started there. I had to learn how everything worked. And, like, when somebody's coming to me, do I need to fix your problem, or do I need to send you on to whoever does need to fix your problem? So just learning that takes a long time to learn the chain of command and how to do things and what to fix and when to fix it. So I feel like that's 100% correct, Alyssa.
Cool. Great. Thanks,
There's
Pat.
also, sorry, Brooke, I just want to jump in. Yeah. Talking to Alyssa's point about having seen, like, Aya stuff on social media, there's a saying in photography, it's show what you want to shoot. So if you're not showing people that you can do this job, no one's going to reach out to you to do the job. So you need to go out, and if you're a stylist, get some friends. And iPhones are great now. They have great cameras. Do your own shoot, show people what you can do, or reach out to that photographer or whatever. And I feel like this applies in any of our industries. You have to show people that you're able to do it. The only reason I started shooting for Inspired Living magazine back in the day was I loved fashion. I got some girlfriends together. I was like, hey, let's have, like, fun fashion shoots together. We were doing that a bunch. And the editor of the magazine approached me and said, I've been seeing what you've been shooting. I think you should shoot for our magazine. There's no way she would have offered me that job had I not been just going out and showing people what I wanted to do and that I could do it. So I think with everyone, although people asking questions, I just think you just have to go and show people and then make those relationships and those connections. And that's really all it is.
Yeah, it's interesting. It almost makes you wonder, like, what the future of formal education will be in this, because so much of what the panel has talked about tonight is, you can go learn these things on your own. And the key is to demonstrate your skills, show what you want to shoot. And, what is the role of formal education and providing those opportunities for students? I think there is still a role for it, but I think as a young person, you have to add an additional layer to that in today's job market, where you're not just getting your degree and you've got your diploma and that's all it takes to get the job. You really do have to demonstrate your skills, whether you're going into the fashion industry or going into computer programming. They're hiring you based on your skills today. And, you know, getting your foot in the door, you might need the degree, but ultimately what's going to get you hired is your demonstration of skills. So yeah, cool. Well, we are way over time. I said we were going to be done by 7:45 or 8 o'clock, but it's been such a great conversation. I couldn't bear the thought of cutting it short. So I want to thank all of our panelists for taking time tonight and talking. It's been a great conversation, and thank you to everybody who participated for the great questions. We still have some more things coming up this week. Tomorrow night, we have James Scully coming in, and he is the fashion industry's whistleblower. So we're really excited to hear about what he did. He essentially put his career on the line to completely transform the modeling industry. So that'll be a good one. Thursday night, we have Takun, who is one of the most successful designers to come out of the Midwest. He went to high school at Bellevue. And so we've been wanting to talk to Takun for many years. So very excited to have him on Thursday night. And then we'll be doing reruns of the shows on Friday and Saturday, and then Shop the Runway Sunday through Instagram with 10 of our designers. So we'll have 10 hours of people selling stuff on Sunday. So there's lots of great things coming up this week. It is all free. So, but we do have limited space available in these sessions. So if you want to hear James Scully or Takun, for those, for sure, make sure you make your reservations. It's free. And we're super